What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to look at the Xbox Series X versus the Xbox Series S. So both consoles, these are Xbox's and Microsoft's next gen consoles, which both launched on November 20th. I've had these consoles since launch. It's been over 4 months and I thought now would be a great time to compare both. So the first thing we're going to look at here is the physical sizes and the physical dimensions. The first thing is that the Xbox Series X is 5.9 by 5.9 by 11.9 inches, or let's just round it off, 6 by 6 by 12 inches. And the Xbox Series S is actually the smallest Xbox ever. It is tiny in terms of footprint. So the Xbox Series S comes white, as you guys can see with the, I mean, first of all, I want to say that I really like the contrasting colors of the Xbox Series S. I love the white versus that black charcoal contrast. You know, the Xbox Series X still looks really good, but I have to give it in terms of the actual color itself. I find it's really, really nice. So the Xbox systems, both of them, it really depends the way that you install them. You guys can see that both of them were installed upwards. And even now when we're looking at the controllers themselves, I mean, I just love the Xbox Series S controller. That white one is just awesome. It has a really nice texture to it, and it just pops. The Xbox Series S and X, both here are being displayed standing up. And, you know, you can obviously see from here that one is a little bit strange. So it's very interesting what Xbox did here in terms of the form factor. The Series X was definitely designed to be standing up versus the Series S was from the side. So now when we put it from the side, you guys can see that the Xbox Series X has this like protruding, well, stand bracket on the bottom side versus the Xbox Series S. It just looks so much better from the side. So it's obvious that the way the console was designed, even the logo, the way the logo is set up, that the Series S should be installed on its side and the Series X should be standing up. So again, we do see the Series X, the bracket on the back side. It just looks weird. You cannot remove it, unfortunately. It's permanent. But this I love. I mean, I love that green, that green texture on the upper vent side of the console. It's really, really nice. This is where the air is being pulled in, and you have your typical connections like your USB 3.0s, your LAN connection, your power, your external storage, and HDMI. It's exactly the same connections on the Xbox Series S. Identical, but of course, smaller form factor. So this is where the air is being pulled in, those two openings, and there's the top side where the air gets pulled out. So this is showing how I have them currently installed at home. Xbox Series X standing up, Xbox Series S on its side, and it just looks amazing. So that's pretty much it on the form factor. Let's jump quickly into specs. Now, one of the biggest difference why the Xbox Series S is so much smaller, there's a couple things. One is that it's missing an Ultra Blu-ray drive. So yeah, 100%, the fact that it's missing an Ultra Blu-ray drive makes it more compact. But it's not only that, that's just half the story. The other reason why the Xbox Series S is smaller is, less power. So the specifications, the power is just not the same. So I will, be going into the, into the specifications very soon, but that will come into factor. There's some things, I mean, the architecture for sure on both consoles will be identical. The processor will be identical, but now let's jump into the power specifications and let's take a look. So what I did here, guys, is I tabulated all the main factors, all the main specs versus the Xbox Series S and S. First thing, let's take a look at the CPU. So the central processing unit. So the Series X uses an AMD Zen 2 CPU running at 8 cores at 3.8 gigahertz versus the Series S. Same thing, it's still a Zen 2 CPU, which is amazing, but this one is running at 3.6 gigahertz. Not a big deal. It's just 200 gigahertz, 0.2 gigahertz less. I think this is negligible. But where you guys need to open your eyes and take a look is the GPU, the graphics processing unit. So the Series X is running an AMD RDNA 2 GPU running at 52 compute units at 1.825 gigahertz versus the Series S has the same RDNA 2 GPU but running only at 20 compute units at 1.565 gigahertz. What does this mean? Well, the total GPU power of the Series X is going to be 12.15 teraflops versus the Series S is only going to have 4 teraflops. So there's 3 times just the graphical power. There's a 3 times difference. The other thing to look at as well, and the reason why I want to speak about this, guys, is you have to always think about value here, right? These two consoles, one costs approximately, one costs $500 versus the other one costs $300. So there's a $200 price difference. So you need to be aware of the specifications and really decide and understand for yourself, is it worth it? Should you be, spending less or more money? But you need to know what you're buying. So on the memory side, that's another thing to look at. On the memory side, we are looking at a massive 16 gigabytes of GDDR6 RAM, running at 10 gigabytes at 560 gigabytes per second, versus the Xbox Series S just has 10 gigabytes of GDDR6. Yeah, don't get me wrong, the GDDR6 is quicker than last gen's GDDR memory, but last gen we had 8, now we're just upgrading to 10. It doesn't tell the whole story, but I find that's still it's not, I don't think it's a lot considering that the Series X has 16 and the Series S has 10. Again, it already took a 3-time hit on the GPU power, but we'll see what happens here. Now, this is a big one as well, the internal storage. The Xbox Series X has a 1 terabyte NVMe SSD running at 2.4 gigabytes per second versus the Series S is 512 gigabytes NVMe SSD. It's half the storage space, and you guys know the storage is really expensive. It costs like $220 or $230 American just to buy a 1 terabyte SSD. So just there, like half that money, because it's 512, it's about like, let's say what, $110. So there's value already in there. Plus it's 3 times less powerful. Plus there's only 10 gigs of GDDR6. But it doesn't end just there. It doesn't end just there. Keep in mind, yeah, okay, both can use a 1 terabyte expansion card. That's cool. But that's not the other thing. The optical drive. So the Series X comes with a 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray drive versus the Xbox Series S is digital only. So I want you guys to do the exercise and go take a look. Try to find what it would cost you guys to buy an Ultra HD Blu-ray drive. I looked on Amazon. You could probably find a super cheap one for like $100 or maybe $150. So, there's value just there. So for myself, like the more and more I think about the Series X value versus the Series S, if you guys are looking for like a long-term gaming console and you could only buy one, I would 100% get the Series X. And even if you look at the performance target, the Series X is targeting 4K at 60 frames per second, and obviously it can go up to 120 frames per second, versus the Series S is really just targeting 1440p or even 1080p depending on the game at 60 frames per second. It says up to 120 frames per second, but that's probably using what's called DRS, which is the dynamic resolution scaling. So they'll just drop the resolution of some scenes to try to get that 120 frames per second. So $200 price difference. Keep that in mind, guys. $200 price difference. You have a little bit of a slower CPU, nothing crazy, but you got 3 times less GPU power. You're going from 12 to 4 teraflops. You have 16 to 10 gigabytes decrease in RAM. You have half the memory. You have no Blu-ray drive, so you have a 4K Blu-ray drive and none in the Series S. So just there, guys, I just find that $200 price difference is not really justified, to be honest, on the Series S. For what you get more on the Series X, I think it's worth the $200 price. But this is one thing, right? These are just specs on paper. Well, how do they perform on games? So let's take a look. So the first game we're going to take a look at here is Ori and the Will of the Wisp. Why? So the games that I've selected were all based on Series X and Series S optimized. I mean, this Ori and the Will of the Wisp, if you guys play it on the Series X, you can play it up to 6K upscaled, running at 60 frames per second. That is just incredible. Versus the Series S, you can have it up to 4K at 60 frames per second. So big difference. I love this game. It's beautiful, and it's definitely a showpiece when it comes to HDR capabilities. Alright guys, the next game here is Gears 5, and honestly, if I have to pick one game where you guys should, like, you want to show off your brand new 4K TV with HDR capabilities, this is the game. Gears 5. Oh my god, what a fantastic job Xbox did on this. It looks great on the Series S. Don't get me wrong, I think it runs at 1080p or 1440p. But man, this game on the Series X runs at 4K, 60 frames per second, doesn't drop a frame, doesn't drop resolution. It's just beautiful. The colors, the vibrancy, the resolution. I mean, this game looks next gen, and guess what? This is just an old gen game. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what the next Gears game have to come. Alright guys, next game we're looking at here is Forza Horizon 4. I mean, you guys can't argue this is probably one of the best racing games to ever come out in the history. This thing is just amazing. And again, running on the Series X, you're getting glorious 4K native. So glorious 4K native running at 60 frames per second versus the Series S. You know, it's 4 times less resolution, running just at 1080p. So 1080p, yes, at 60 frames per second, but it just misses that that crispness, that resolution. It's just amazing. And it's, again, another showpiece for HDR on your brand new 4K TV. I love this game. I can't get enough of it. I can't wait to see what Forza does next. So yeah, I highly recommend this game. Another showpiece game, the next one here, yes, Doom Eternal. Doom Eternal is my favorite all-time first-person shooter game. This is just a masterpiece, nominated for Game of the Year. Obviously, it didn't win it, but doesn't matter. It was nominated, and it's just amazing. Again, running on the Series X at 4K native, 60 frames per second, versus the Series S, 1080p to 1440p in best occasions. And again, you guys always have to realize that these are ports. These are ports that are taking over. So this, again, amazing game. I love Doom. And with the Bethesda acquisition, I can't wait to see what comes next. Microsoft and Bethesda are going to blow our minds. I can't wait. So that's it. I'll let you guys enjoy a little bit of gameplay before we jump into the next one. Alright guys, let's take a look at the next game, which is The Tourist. Again, a prime example of optimized for Series X and S, but this one here on the Series X, again, is running at 6K upscaled, 60 frames per second. It actually can go up to 120 frames per second as well. I just love the pixel animation of this game. It's vibrant, it's colorful, it's fun to play. It looks amazing on any TV, especially if you have 4K capabilities. And people say, yeah, but Gratz, 4K, again, 6K upscaling. Can you really notice it? And yes, you can. You actually, if you change the resolution between 4K and 6K upscaled, you will see a change in the textures and in the resolution. This game is just gorgeous. I love it. So, I mean, in conclusion, I mean, what we're seeing here are all the games on Game Pass. Look, there's value in the Series S. If you're looking to just get into the Xbox ecosystem and you just want to get Game Pass and maybe use it as a secondary console, yeah, the Series S is good. But if you're a hardcore gamer, you're serious about gaming, this is a no-brainer. The Xbox Series X is the winner in my eyes. Let's show the specifications once again just to conclude all this. I mean, for $200 more, the Xbox Series X gives you a faster CPU, a 3 times more powerful GPU, 16 gigabytes of GDDR6 versus 10. You have double the storage plus a 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray drive and the promise of 4K at 60 frames per second. But you guys see on the box art, they actually say that it can go up to 8K. And just my experience that I've had, guys, over the last 4 months playing the Series S versus the Series X, I'm always gravitating back to the Series X. Again, if you're serious about gaming and you can only buy one console, for me it's a no-brainer. Get the Series X. That $200 price difference is eaten so quickly. And especially to consider that these consoles should last you like 6 to 7 years. I mean, what is $200 spread out over that lifespan? So if you need to get a single game console, it's a Series X. If you need to get a secondary gaming console, maybe a PS5 with a Series S could be a really good fit. So that's the video today, guys. Like, subscribe, leave some comments, share this video, hit the notification bell. I hope you enjoyed this video. As always, have yourself a great day, have yourself a great night, and I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.